Can you imagine anything more brave than blindly following the latest trend, encouraging others to follow it, especially when that trend isn't even a new trend? It's the oldest trend in the book, which is hatred of Jews. Well, you can probably imagine that, whether or not you have an active imagination. But for Robert Greenwald, his new company, or I don't know if it's new, but his company, production company promoting uh, anti-Semitic views, sees that as some sort of bravery, and uh, he has named it Brave New Films. So today we're going to talk about Brave New Films. We're going to watch a couple of trailers they have, one for the channel and one uh, something more specific. And yeah, this is another piece of the puzzle in the new media anti-Semitic space, which is done differently than the old media anti-Semitic space, which still occasionally pretends to have some sort of impartiality. Of course, that is a pretense that we call them out on all the time. Anyway, welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm joined by Daniel. Daniel, any thoughts before we start watching the first of those two clips?
I mean, not really. Most of the things. So the video is called something like, how we could spend the money that we are giving Israel or something like that. And just a heads up for because on the reality show we'll be talking about something similar. Whenever somebody says that, that's a red herring. It's not about that. Oh, we could use the money for this, but we are using it for that. No, it's we hate Israel. We want to wipe out Israel. Whatever argument makes it easiest for people to support us, that's what we'll use.
Well, let's see what the argument they're using in this clip is. Yeah, I would choose killing Palestinians. Unfortunately, that is not what the money is going for. And by the way, we didn't go into the numbers on any of this, and we wouldn't go into the numbers even if we had the time and resources to spend, because it doesn't matter. We know much of it is a lie. Much of the money that America has put in is actually to help the people who started this war. Unlike other countries, America, also supports Israel to some extent. But yeah, let's keep that in mind. None of the things mentioned there are within the legitimate function of a government. None of them should be done whether or not there is a war being paid for. But yeah, as you mentioned, Daniel, this is a rhetorical trick that often comes up. Like, here's an amount of money. Here's what it could be spent on other than what it is being spent on. Now, the really despicable form it usually takes is insert billionaire, Jeff Bezos' money could feed so many, the same thing, but with a private individual's money. And of course, anybody who looks at Jeff Bezos and says, "Here's what I would do with that kind of money," is lying to himself, because you would never get to the point where you have that kind of money, because when Jeff Bezos was in his parents' basement building Amazon, you're in your parents' basement tweeting about how evil rich people are. So yeah, that's a thing to always remember about these people, whether they're complaining about how rich people spend their money, how government spends their money. Across the board, they are consistently wrong about this, and the more you hear what they would like to see and what they wouldn't like to see, the more you understand how evil they are. And yeah, across the board, what they're complaining about being done should be done, maybe a bit differently. And what they'd like to see done should not be done by governments. But of course, Robert Greenwald can spend his own money doing that. But of course, as mentioned, he can't.
Yeah, and I mean, again, you can like point out the problems within the arguments itself. It's like foreign aid to Israel. Well, what about foreign aid to other countries? I mean, they mention, feeding the children around the world. Isn't that a part of foreign aid that you are supposedly against here? What nations are in top five? Afghanistan was among one of the nations in top five that America has given money to, especially if you consider how short the money was going to Afghanistan as compared to Israel, then it was much more yearly that was going to Afghanistan. But again, that's not the thing. And even then, it's the focus on like money being given, as if this is like a check written to Netanyahu personally. Like this is going to like his checking account, and then he can do whatever he wants with this. The money going to Israel is, for the most part, simply credit that Israel then needs to spend in America. So, these, like, again, I don't like this argument, but like, these are American jobs that are being supported. And I think this is benefit to America. America wants to have a military industrial complex. There is a reason why you want to have it. So whenever there is a war, you are ready for it. You don't need to, like during World War II, you don't need to go to your tractor factories and convert them so they make tanks. It's so whenever there is a war, whenever you need to defend American lives, whenever there is a threat to America, you can quickly deploy it. And one way to, in a sense, you could say subsidize, but technically it's simply allowing it to live through as private companies is making deals with allies so they buy American weapons. Israel gets most majority of its weapons from America. This is a beneficial thing. Not to mention, Israel is fighting American enemies. As the Chancellor of Germany said, Israel is doing the dirty job of Western nations. If Israel didn't start the taking out of Iranian nuclear sites, somebody would have to do it. Or we would have nuclear Iran. Those are your two choices. And everybody agrees. And everybody agrees. I mean, Western leaders, even though they don't say it publicly, understand that Israel is a good thing for the world. Israel is destroying its enemies, despite the fact that they will attack Israel for doing so.
Yeah, and it's an important point that Israel is fighting against America's enemies as well. The last time I remember this kind of arguments being used, not against self-made rich, but against government and how it spends money, at least in the U.S. was during the Iraq War, which, there are arguments for, arguments against. The money is not an argument in the case of war. You either have to go to war and then you do, or you don't have to and then you don't. That's as simple as that, and you have to fund it if you do have to go to war. So, but anyway, we will get to see a lot more of who these people are when we see the trailer for their channel. Any additional thoughts on this so far?
No, I would just make the most important point. It's the stronger the Israel is, the less costly it is to America. If your goal is, if what they say is true, that their goal is to save money, America is saving money by spending it on Israel. That's probably, and I feel like I remember a quote from somebody, that's like the best dollars the Congress can spend is to appropriate some of the funds to Israel. Meaning, even when I say this, meaning it goes back to America anyway, because it's going to American manufacturing. The same way Ukrainian funds for Ukrainian state to defend itself from Russia is beneficial to America. Russia, China, and Iran are America's top enemies. If America has a way to indirectly fight any of them, they should absolutely take it. That's why, number five when it comes to foreign aid is South Korea, because that is America wants to have a strong ally in that region against China. That's the reason it funds Ukraine. That's the reason it funds Israel. And that's the reason it funds South Korea. Unfortunately, that is also the reason why it funds Afghanistan and Egypt, which we could say something about that. But again, that shows how it's not about money, right? Because I don't think we will find the same videos about Egypt and Afghanistan on their channel. It's probably just gonna be Israel.
Yeah, and again, it says a lot about the people who think the worst thing America is doing right now is uh, their half-assed support for those who are fighting against the Death to America crowd. That is what Islamists, that is what Iran officially has as their slogan. That is what all Iranian-backed terrorists who have all been fighting against Israel over the past 2 years, that is what they all want, and it does raise a question. If you think fighting them is bad, what do you think is good, and what is the kind of world you want to see? Yeah, it's some type of bravery, maybe in some people's definition. I would call it evil. And okay, I think it's enough about that. Let's watch the trailer. Let's start watching the trailer. I think we'll have to pause a couple of times there.
نحن الآن قذيفة إسرائيلية في ذات المحيط خلال تسجيل هذا التقرير.
Such a massacre
All right,
against
maybe
journalists in
maybe
such
we'll
a
stop
short period.
there. Yeah. Okay, so they're talking about, of course, the number of journalists killed in Gaza. We know that number is whatever Hamas tells people that number is, and we also know that 100% of journalists in Gaza are Hamas, because you cannot be a journalist in a dictatorship, in a totalitarian regime, without the approval of the regime. You certainly can't do it with your name out there. Like, there's no way any journalist in Gaza can go against the word of Hamas. They're all Hamas. Okay, so three of the many Hamas people killed are highlighted here. They're called journalists, which already tells you, again, everything you need to know about this media organization. But let's start with what's his name? Is it Ismail El-Gul?
Yep.
Because this is somebody we covered. We covered him. I think we did at least one show about him. This is an actual terrorist from the Nukhbas. This is an actual murderer of Hamas. And this was known, I'm sure, to the people in Brave New Films when they chose him to be one of the 178 journalists being talked about in this documentary.
Yeah, I mean, again, when it comes to again, for the people, because people who just listen cannot see the screen. It was I'm not. That didn't look like Ismail, so I'm not sure if it was him on the first video. But basically, he was like giving a report, and then like few buildings over, there was a strike. Now, whenever this happens, I'm always like, don't you know the strike is coming? You probably knew the strike is coming, and you chose to like be that. And even then, even if they didn't know the strike was coming, and this was whatever, a scare tactic, these are Hamas propagandists. I don't care. Like, there are no legitimate journalists in Gaza. This is a war zone. If you go there, either you'll only be allowed to report based on what Hamas is, or you are an actual Hamas propagandist. Like in the case of these people can look up Al Ghul specifically. We covered him. So yeah, Israel should do whatever is necessary to end the war as soon as possible. If it means taking out propagandists, or not even propagandists, taking out actual people in Hamas, it should absolutely do so. And people who go to these people try to say, oh, these are journalists, which, again, journalism is not just something you decide. There is, according to international law, there are specific protection. There are specific things you have to do. It doesn't mean that you can just say you're journalist and then you can participate in Hamas activities. You can continue to terrorize people. You can make propaganda, state propaganda, and then say, well, but I was a journalist. That's not how it works.
Well, that's how Brave New Films works. Let's watch some more of the clip.
Such a massacre against journalists in such a short period of time is unprecedented.
Journalists have been deliberately targeted. that would constitute a war crime.
الغارات الإسرائيلية لم تتوقف على مدينة غزة.
Since no foreign journalists are allowed in unless they are embedded with the Israeli army, these local journalists are the eyes and ears of the world.
Okay, let's pause there again. The woman earlier said journalists are deliberately targeted, which constitutes a war crime. I mean, this is what pretty much international law is all about. Bullshitting your way into saying why the people attacked by savages are actually at fault when they attempt to defend themselves. So yeah, everything in that sentence pretty much is false. It's a lie. They're not journalists. They're Hamas. They are not targeted by Israel as journalists to the extent that they report anything. They're killed because Hamas is targeted, and sometimes, if you're a terrorist or you're right next to a terrorist, which, undoubtedly many journalists are, then you can get killed. But yeah, and then the second person who said they are the eyes and ears of the world because only journalists embedded with Israel are allowed into Gaza. Well, no, journalists embedded with the Israeli troops are allowed into Gaza from Israel's side, and Hamas allows journalists approved by Hamas on the Palestinian side. So yeah, they're neither side is allowing journalists to roam free and say whatever's on their mind. But one side started this war and refused to end it and wants to exterminate the Jews and is a totalitarian regime, and the other is defending itself from that side. So let's always keep that in mind when we're talking about this war.
Yeah, and again, even if you are calling yourself a journalist, what do you report on? Do you are you in Gaza, and do you report on what IDF movements when IDF is planning to strike? That's military information. Of course, you'll be strike if you do that. This is Israel needs to wage this war again. This is a war. This is not a picnic. This is not some even like police event where they have to police people and just make sure nothing crazy happens. No, this is a war. Israel should end it as soon as possible. Unfortunately, it's not fighting because of these people, because they want to for Israel to cover itself. They want for Israel to preserve Palestinian life at the cost of both its own people and the IDF. So no, if there is somebody in Gaza, whether they call themselves journalists or not, and they report on what IDF is doing, meaning they are putting the lives of IDF soldiers and all of Israel in danger, they should be taken out. There's no question about it. And I think that was, I'm trying to remember, maybe that was like a half year ago or a few months ago, where it was like Israel struck another hospital, and then we found out there was like there was a terrorist on top of that building, basically watching the IDF movements and reporting on them. So yeah, you're gonna get tried.
All right, let's keep watching.
And unless they are embedded with the Israeli army, these local journalists are the eyes and ears of the world.
ايش صار يا حبيبي؟ ضحية هذه الحرب هم الأطفال والنساء. اسماعيل ماذا فعل؟ وهو بزي الصحافة.
يتم قصف وتدمير البيوت على رؤوس ساكنيها.
All right, let's pause there. First of all, when you saw my camera off. When you saw Ismail talking there, of course, he did propaganda in that short clip saying that the victims of this war are women and children. Children, I completely agree, they're victims of the war. No Palestinian adult is a victim of this war because the entire Palestinian population supported this war, and never made any attempt to end it until Trump came in and forced Israel to stop defending itself. So, yeah, nobody in Gaza except children is a victim, and all the children are victims of their own parents and the adults in the society. As is always the case, children do not get to decide what kind of society they live in. They are, the beneficiaries or victims of what the adults decide. There was another point right after, but I forgot what it was. So I will thank Bonnie for the super chat, and thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. And Daniel, I'll go back to you and see if I can remember what else I was going to say.
Yeah, and again, what kind of documentary is this? Like, no mention of Hamas so far, no mention of the hostages, although this, I think, came out like a few days ago, so thankfully at least the living hostages are out. But even if you're like focusing on that, what about the Hamas elimination of its opposition? The fact that Hamas, after again taking over, started killing their own people? Or, oh, whoa, are those like Israeli sympathizers? Or is this like ISIS? So it's like okay to kill them? It's like come on, there is nobody cares about like establishing like a proper Palestinian state, meaning the one that respects individual rights. This is not about that. It's about Israel getting out and allowing Palestinians to slaughter Israelis another day. Because I mean, once IDF gets out, what do we expect? Do we expect that there will be some decent Palestinian state? No, it's going to be the same thing. And either you ignore what is actually happening or you want it to happen. You want more uh, October 7th. You want more war in this region against the state of Israel. Those are your only two choices unless you do something about what Palestinians want. Again, even if you somehow feel bad for Palestinians, ignoring the fact that majority of them support October 7th and want violence against Jews. That's the fact. That's what it is. Unless you're willing to work with that and do something about it, you're supporting that. You're supporting more violence.
Yeah, and the fact that this has never been about a Palestinian state for anybody is something that, even those in the West are starting to stop pretending otherwise. I mean, they kind of it's very difficult to take them at their word if any of them say this is not about murdering Jews and nothing else, since they did go out and celebrate on the streets on October 7th, since they're still protesting Israel's very existence, despite the so-called ceasefire, which has been, violated repeatedly by Hamas. And yeah, as you mentioned, Hamas has been mass murdering Palestinians left, right, and center, and this is not a topic in the news. Certainly not something anybody would protest about, because that is the Palestinianism that these people are supporting. So, if anything, it's only a surprise that people aren't on the streets celebrating that Hamas is murdering, civilians in Gaza, because
Well, during that event, people were taking pictures, and it was like a public execution. When we were talking about Hamas, it wasn't like some secret thing. People were
well, I'm
around,
talking
and
about people not celebrating on the streets of London and
oh,
elsewhere in the West. But maybe that day will come too. Thank you, Jonathan, for another super chat. Okay, let's keep watching the clip. There's a point I wanted to get to. I'm not sure we will, but let's see.
Was known as the father of the Palestinian. Bilal was known
All right,
as the
that's
father
the
of the
one.
Palestinian.
That was exactly what I wanted to talk about. Bilal, whatever his name was. The father of Palestinian journalism. And again, this is how this woman talks about him. They're very much focused. Their target audience is very, if you want to succeed in getting an audience, you need to know who your potential viewers, customers are. They know. They know that their biggest supporters are people who are not ever interested in asking any question about something that, they're kind of on the same page about. If you know that Gaza is a totalitarian regime owned and run by Hamas, and you're being told that somebody is the father of Palestinian journalism, do you think that person is not obviously 100% involved in terrorism? No, you don't think that because you don't think if you are on this side. You don't say about somebody in North Korea that they're the father of North Korean journalism. If there is somebody like that, he is, I guarantee you, never ever uttered a negative word about the dictator or the dictator's father or his father, because he would get killed for it. And so would Bilal if he was a journalist. If he was a journalist doing journalism in Gaza, we would not know about him. But we do know about him, and the biggest supporters of the people who started this war are celebrating him, and that tells you a lot.
yeah, I mean, again, we are dealing with like not a legitimate state. I never heard of this guy. First time I'm hearing. So I just quickly looked up, and he was in the original 2006 government where he worked as like an official for media. I don't know if he was in either Hamas or Fatah, but he was at least somebody who was endorsed by both of these organizations, and most likely by Hamas. In 2006, Hamas won the election, so I assume if he was in the new government, he was probably endorsed by Hamas. So again, this is like the kind of thing we're dealing with, and this is what is the hardest for I think people in the West. People are used to Western societies. People are used to Western what do you call them, like things already set in place, practices set in place, some standards for certain things. This is not a thing in broadly the Middle East alone. I mean, what is how many years is Mahmoud Abbas in his 4-year term? I mean, this is like there are no elections. And even when there are elections, it's not about properly setting up institutions, is the word I was looking for. Institutions to work. No, it's a terrorist organization inside of Gaza that has its arms in every aspect of life. This is like North Korea style of complete control over every single thing that is happening. Trying to act as if, oh, these are like independent journalists working with NGOs. It's ridiculous. Again, you're lying to yourself.
Thank you, Wolfguy22 for the super chat. Thank you, Enric, for the super chat. Enric says the level of pro-Gaza and Hamas propaganda out there is remarkable. I was at a bookstore in San Francisco last night. The row of books at the cashier were all against Israel and promoting Gaza. Yeah, that is true. It's not surprising, although in a sense it is surprising. Like I've talked about how when we decided that the content of this channel will be focused on the war and its cultural fallout, I expected it to be weeks. I didn't expect it to be years, in part because Israel refused to fight the war, but in large part because this is a moment identical in so many ways to what we learned about in history lessons in Germany before the Holocaust. So yeah, we are truly living through this, and it is terrifying, and we will, continue to fight the good fight, even if it looks like there's very little chance of winning. Any more thoughts? Do you want to watch a bit more of the clip?
No. We can start wrapping up, I think.
I mean, how much of the clip is left?
Like a minute.
All right. Parting thoughts?
Again, whenever you see somebody criticizing Israel, and this is what we'll talk about on the reality show, look at what they are actually criticizing or what they are choosing to focus on. It's never really about the money or the American involvement or anything in that regard. Oftentimes, they don't even define the values, right? They don't even define what exactly they have a problem with. They accept propaganda. Again, the war in Gaza is about the defense of the state of Israel, and or should be to a large extent. Unfortunately, Israel is not fighting the war properly, but Israel is not wrong in Gaza because supposedly genocide or because supposedly it's targeting innocents. No, it's because it's not fighting harshly enough. This is the purpose of government, is to defend its citizens. And when it is not doing properly, that's a problem. But this is not what's being criticized. What is being criticized is the fact that Israel is defending itself. No matter how little Israel would have killed, somebody says 60,000 to 1,200 isn't what? Well, Palestinians suck at waging war. I mean, what do you want me to say? It's Israel is just much better at it. But even then, there is a difference between Hamas going into Israel, slaughtering 1,200 innocent people, and then Israel responding and supposedly killing 60,000. But even that's probably not true. But again, yeah, those things happen. Look at World War II numbers. Yeah, more Germans died than the Allies. That's what happens.
Yeah, the idea that, whoever dies, whichever side has more deaths in the war, is definitely the victim, even if they started it, even if they could stop it at, let's pretend these numbers are true, 20,000, at 25,000, at 25,001, at 32,000. They could have stopped it at any point. They didn't. By the way, the 60,000, there's two problems with it. One is it's Hamas propaganda, which you're repeating because you're a Hamas shill. The second is, if it were true, it would be embarrassingly low. And the reason is not that it's a numbers game, but that Israel knows how much of the population is actively fighting against it, knows that that population is hiding among civilians. If Israel actually decided we are going to kill every single terrorist, only active terrorist in Gaza, the number would have been, many, many, many times higher than 60,000. So that's something to remember. But yeah, our trolls in the chat are now no longer just experts on the Jews. This guy's also experts on objectivism and how the objectivist movement works. It's fascinating, but anyway, Daniel, I'm sure we'll talk about all aspects of this a lot more. And you have a reality show coming up where you are talking about how this manifests itself in American politics today. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks everybody for watching. The reality show starts in a couple of minutes.